on. Hey, good afternoon. Good evening. All right, you're stuck with me today. Okay, I got some cool things I'm going to do today, I think. But I'm going to open up with some music, and then I'm going to tell you what I did, and then we'll go into some stuff. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to open up with this fun number. It's a great classic. Take two. I had the wrong song on. Crowd roars, hey! Not right now, sorry. Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you. And I've got it recorded, so now all these people are going to come chase you down. We had a couple of youngins started doing this on the keys. Anyway, so that was a song, obviously, you should be familiar with it, called My Girl. And I used the playlist for that. Now, I'm going to do a little recap only because I think part of me wants to do it for the simple fact that I didn't have this TV working, and I was getting you dizzy with the, with the camera. Which, by the way, as of about 5 minutes ago, that last week's class just posted. So I'll get caught up. I have so many classes recorded from Fletcher along the way, so it takes me a little time sometimes. Anyway, so a couple things on that song, if you want to use this, and this effect will happen in other ways too. This is pretty cool. Now, show of hands, for those of you who have your video on, if you have, you can turn your video on, or you don't have to. All right, how many of you have a Lowry organ? Okay, so a lot of you have a Lowry organ, and you're going to have this along with it, or you may have an organ. I guess it just doesn't matter. So a lot of the models over the years, there is a section on the organ that would specifically make certain instruments as a solo instrument. Okay? So on the Lowrys, it was labeled strictly solo. On the Esty, actually, it works a little bit differently. And on here, it's it actually does two functions in one. Okay, so I'll show you that in a bit. So the first thing is I'm going to put up this camera, hold that thought on the solo, and again, if you want to get to the playlist, you just simply push the button that says playlist, and when you do, and for those of you who are new to this terminology, or if you were here last week, basically playlist is song setup, okay? And there are 1,300 something, I don't know the exact number, I just know there's a lot, okay? Now I'm going purposely back to this screen so you see this, okay? So when you put your playlist on the first, when you get this fresh out of the box, when you do receive it, okay, and you go to the button playlist, what's going to happen is this is going to show up on the screen, all right? Once you press where it says example, I touched example, you'll see it says preset example, and you'll see there, I think this is a much better view than what I had last week. You'll see it says user. If you touch user, this will come up, all right? And then you'll see on the screen there, it says GENOS 2 playlist. All right. Now, I'm going to go back even further because I'm already there. But what will happen is it'll say this, playlist for GENOS 2. Now, this is when you first activate it, okay? And then when you touch it, you'll have all of these categories. And you'll see at the bottom there's a P2. You touch P2, and there's all the categories, all right? Now, for the song My Girl, it was under the R&B category. So when I touch R&B, you'll see it says that, and then you touch it again. And then the last thing that you have to do is on the keyboard here. Why is my camera upside down? Is my camera upside down, or is that just me? Sorry, I have no idea how that happened. That's never happened before with my camera. Okay, let's try that again. Let's go back to my phone. Where are you, phone? Okay, that's strange. Okay, I have a backup plan. It's not ideal, but I'll go. Okay. Let's see. It's still upside down. Okay. All right, well, all else fails, I'm going to restart my phone, switch to this camera. It'll be a little blurry. Okay, so basically, after you get to that, you just have to push the playlist button right there. And when you do that, all of the songs in that playlist will populate under the R&B category. Okay? So, and then you scroll. Now, if you're looking at the screen there, you have a couple ways you can do this. You'll see that there's a little down arrow. You see, you can go down. Okay? To the right of the screen on the GENOS 2, there's a little dial. Now, you can't see it right now in this angle, but you just spin the dial, and you can see I'm just going, woo, I could do that. Okay. You'll also see, you see where it says 2/12, and then there's an arrow right above it, and then there's another arrow with a line. So if you touch the little arrow, you'll see it goes by page. Okay. Now, all the arrow with the line does is it jumps down to the very far bottom. So like if you want to get to the Y's or something like that. So there's several ways that you can actually search for the song title. So you just pick whatever method that works for you. Now what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to do it by this little arrow. And then I went to My Girl, and then I touch it and I select it, and there you go. Okay? Now, fingers crossed, let's hope my camera works this time. Unlock it. Okay. Come on, phone. This is why it takes me so long to post it, because then I have to go back and edit all this stuff out. Come on. Sorry, folks. Okay, let's try this again. Fingers crossed. Give me a prayer. Okay. All right. So after it's selected, you can either touch it on the screen or you could actually hit enter. And then a lot of times I'll just push the home button and come back to the home screen. Now, that setup that I had, by the way, it sets up the registration numbers right here. Okay? So for example, 1 will always put on an introduction automatically. 6 will always put on the ending. But as I was playing that song, okay, so the second setup in this case, it had a harmonica. Now, if I push the 2 notes together, you get 2 notes, right? If you do 3, well, that's pretty cool. But this is very, very intelligent. It knows when it needs to be a solo instrument. So if I'm holding the notes, if you hold the note and you wiggle another note, it only does 1 note at a time. And it acts like a solo instrument. So for those of you who have Lowry organs or used to, if you remember the solo, when you had a sound on in the solo, no matter how many times you hit a note, 3 or 4 fingers, it would only do 1 note at a time all the time. And it had a purpose. Okay? I remember when I first sat down and doing this, I was like, come on, this has got to have a solo on it. And I was poking around doing it. And then one day I was just playing and I went like this. Oh, that's cool. Which is a really cool effect if you think about a harmonica player when they're doing that. All right? So that will happen in a lot of sounds that you try. There's going to be one I'll probably do a little later on with a flute where it does that and you can wiggle the notes and what have you. The other thing that I touched on, I'm going to just do this real briefly, is let me switch the screen here and hope that my camera remains. Behave, camera. All right, was the styles. Because that's where everybody goes when we look for songs. But before I move on, let me go back to the playlist real quick. So if you remember here, if I go to playlist, you'll see I have the GENOS 2 playlist, the R&B. If you want to go back to the main category, just touch it at the top. You'll see it highlighted, and you'll see it went back to that. Now you have 2 things you could do. You could select that little arrow on the bottom, and it'll go up 1. And then you're back in the categories, okay? Or if you push user, it'll bring you back to the main title of the list. And so you got a couple ways of doing that, by the way, all right? Now, if you push the home button, you come back to your home screen there. I prefer that big orange button. Some people will actually select on the GENOS 2 to the right side of the panel, there's a button that's called Style. And that gives you access to the style. But I like just pushing that orange button. And when you do it, It gives you all of the categories to the styles. Okay? So now let's say, for example, I think I had one earlier here. This might be kind of fun. I think it was in the R&B. Where's R&B? Oh, R&B. 6/8 soul ballad. I love this style. I don't know if I played this last week, but I love this style. So basically, you pick the category, and then you have pages and pages and pages and pages. And then once you get to page 5, if you see that little arrow there, that means there's more pages. See that little arrow? There's one more page there. Okay? If you push that arrow that points up, it brings you back to the main category of styles. Oops. Come back to the home. All right. So now I go back to R&B. I'm on page 1, 6/8 soul ballad. All right. Now, once I select the style, I mentioned this last week, you have your one-touch settings. And you have 4 one-touch settings for every style. Okay? So I have the one-touch setting. The only thing I have to do is put on an intro. I love this style. I'm using one-touch setting 1. Here's one-touch setting 2. And I'm going to push the main variation B and watch the band change just a little bit. Now, if you get a sound like that with the saxophone or the clarinets, the trumpets, if you hold the note, okay, if you go up to another note, it'll do an articulation where it'll, just like a real saxophone. Now, sometimes they're built into the articulation buttons as well. But sometimes I like just doing it on the keyboard instead of taking my hand off and doing that. One-touch setting 3. I don't know. You don't have to do that. Oh, I don't know why if I just keep moving around. Ooh. Okay, here's another cool little feature that I discovered. Now, I know some of you have this fabulous instrument and you have little foot switches for them. There can be several switches. You could actually buy a volume separately, so you can have like the organs do. You can have these little foot switches attached to the back where you can do an actual sustain. So for those of you who are piano players, I don't use that feature a lot, but every now and then it'd be cool to have it, and I don't have one. So when I was playing that, let me put that back on here. All right. One of the settings I had, I think it was this one. It was a nice little concert grand piano with what they call an American ballad, probably electric piano type sound. Okay, but if you notice, there's no sustain there. Okay, but when I use that, I like to have the sustain. Now, show of hands, any piano players out there? No? I thought there'd be at least one, two, maybe the ones with their screens off are piano players. So as you know, on a piano, if you play a piano, what really makes part of the making that instrument work for you is that when you're playing, you're not playing staccato all the time. You have to constantly lift your foot off the sustain pedal at the right moments when you're using that. That's one of the reasons why it's a tricky instrument to play for some people. Short story, when I took piano in high school, at the end of the year I had to do a recital, all the students, it was a public school, and I wanted to play this popular song that was big at the time, and the teacher was a by the book. She said no. And I asked several times. The answer was no. Now, I'm not a rebel. I know you guys know me. I'm not like that, right? Some of you who know me are giving me funny looks. So anyway, they lined us up. There's like probably 100 of us, and there's an auditorium full of, it was a big auditorium. It must have had 3,000 people there because they were all family of the kids, right? And my last name being Roman, they had lined us up alphabetically. And I remember standing in line going, I'm going to play the song I want to play. This is what I'm thinking. And then someone goes and they play, a few people up, and I start thinking to myself, now I'm 16 now, 15, okay? And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. So I go through this torment for like an hour. Anyway, the moment of truth comes out, and I get on the stage, and I go up, and I start to play, and guess what I do? I play the one that I want to play. Well, my teacher didn't like that. So about 8 measures into the song, she came out with a microphone, stopped me, tapped me, stopped me, and then looked at the crowd and said, he is playing the improper song. Now he will play the correct one. And I turned around, and I was so angry. And my tennis shoe, when I start to play, I played the song, it got kind of wedged in the sustain pedal. So the whole thing I played was a sustain on the whole entire time. I got through it. Needless to say, it drove me to getting a guitar for Christmas, and inevitably I came back to the organ. I thought it's a lot more fun than a piano. Anyway, but the sustain pedal, it requires a technique. This has kind of a neat little fun feature on here. Here's the panel. Over to the very far right, there's 2 buttons. One of them says sustain, okay? And if you push it, it'll actually allow you to sustain certain sounds that you have selected at that time, and you can change it. So when I pushed it and I played, when I continue playing for you, now the beauty is this is not like what I just told you with the pedal, because normally you wouldn't hold the sustain down. Well, when I activate it, the sustain is on all the time. Now, luckily, fortunately, a lot of these are kind of pre-programmed. So if you activate this feature, the sustain will be kind of right for that setting. Now, I don't know, I haven't tried all hundreds of presets yet, but it should work for you. So when I activated it, I took a chance. When I was playing, I just reached over and activated, and then as I was playing, it was just the right amount of sustain so that as I played the note, it didn't carry out too long. Now, if you're one of those that likes to dig into the product a little bit, there's a fun little thing you can do with the sustain. You can actually go in and adjust it however you want, and it's pretty simple. So on the dash here, I'm not going to mess with my camera. You're just going to have to follow the finger on yours when you get it. Right to the right of the screen, there's a button that says exit. So if you're in certain features, you hit the exit, you can back away from what you're doing. Right next to it, there's a button that's called direct access. Okay? And when you press that button, you'll get something that will pop up on the screen. You could ignore that. And you just come over and you push the sustain button. Okay? And what happens, let me switch to camera so you could see this when I do that. Okay. So I'm going to put direct access, and you'll see this thing will come up. You don't have to worry about that. Just push the sustain button. So you can see it says panel sustain. So that's at 116. Now if I turn this down to 37, you might not get much sustain. Obviously it's very, you see the difference? Now if I put it all the way up, to 127, it's a little longer. So as you notice, when I use that setting, it set it up. Now I'm going to push one touch setting number 2. Now you can't see me doing it, but I'm going to do it. So you'll see that it says panel sustain 92. So whatever sound I'm using, if I use it, that's the sustain. If I push one touch setting 1, whoops, goes into a whole total, oh, that was the organ sound. Now watch when I go to number 4, 116. So you can see there's predetermined sustain settings for every preset that you're using. Now, again, it's not going to always be to your liking, but in this case, when I had number 3 on, which gave me that piano sound, you could see there it says concert grand piano at the top there. That was a perfect setting for that. Oops. Okay. So just you could have some fun with that. Now, if you go out and you spend, I don't know what it is, $40 or whatever for a sustain pedal, you can do that, attach it to the back. There's a switch in the back, and then you can use that switch, that function, as a sustain. Okay? So you'll notice that a lot of times the sustain button is not on. Actually, when I push the presets, it doesn't come on at all until I actually activate it. And if I leave it on, if I go to another preset, let's see what happens. I'm going to push 70 Soul Ballad. The sustain remains, but internally it changes based on which preset you're using. Okay, so if I go back to Soul Ballad and number 3, now when I pushed number 4, it was a guitar sound. I don't like it with the sustain. You could use it. It's too much for me. So that's a case where it's not to my liking. Then I might just reach up and turn it off and okay, and then you can use it however you see fit. One more topic that I like to talk about next to sustain, there's a button here called Harmony / arpeggio. Let me show you what I'm doing here. Okay, when I activate this feature, by the way, over to the right, there's sustain. Right next to it, it says Harmonio. I made up a word. Harmony arpeggio. It's Harmony / arpeggio. So I'm going to keep it off right now. And when I activate it, I'm going to push direct access Harmony. Okay, but first, let me show you what style I'm using. So I have easy listening, lush ballad, and I hit direct access and Harmony. And you'll see that it says harmony and it's on, and it says 4-way close. And what you're looking at there is what note is the lead, and then what notes is the harmony. So as I just play some notes, I'm just going to let it play a little bit, and I'm going to scroll through. Let me just find something that intrigues me here. Block harmony. Now you'll notice there the screen changed. So the lead is on top, and now you got 4 notes. That's a harmony. Let me go further on. Let's do standard duet 2. You'll notice that the harmony is a lot thinner because there's only 2 notes being played. Standard duet 2. Trio. So for those of you who have organs, you know that there's a feature on a lot of the models, the Lowry and the SC, it's called golden harp. And what the golden harp does is an arpeggio. The function that if you want that arpeggio effect like we're used to is done here, what's called multipad. Okay, so you have 4 buttons here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So for example, let me put back that Latin that I was using earlier. Rumba Latin. Let me just see here. All right. So I got something kind of nice going there. In this multipad, there's 4 different options, and there's always something there. So if you just touch it, like right now, it just gave me a, what do they call that? What do they call that thing?
Gyro.
What is it?
Maraca.
No, it's not a maraca. It's a
Gyro.
gyro. Yeah.
G-I-R-O.
There it is. Now listen, if you see it, if you listen to it, there's cowbells. You got those. And what'll happen is as you're playing along, some of them will just do something instantly go away. See, that just kind of goes away. So let's say you want that to do something more while you're playing. So there's a button here that says select. And when you press select, this screen will show up, and it'll show you what is currently selected in the multipad. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to nylon guitar. And I'm going to select Spanish guitar rumba. So now in the multipad, that guitar sound is programmed in there. All right, let me turn the screen here for a second. Okay, now listen. Okay, that's the way that style is. Okay? Now when I turn on the multipad 1, in this case it does a strum effect. If you turn it off and do number 2, it does a different effect. If you do number 3, it does a different effect. Ooh, that's cool. Listen to that. And if you do number 4 and 3, you could do all of them at once. Might be a little overkill, but here we go. Now, this multipad function, by the way, the patterns change based on the style that you choose. So if you put a folk style, it might do something a little bit more on the, it'll take the guitar sounds and it'll do more of a finger picking. It depends on the style that you're using. And there's always something programmed in there, but if you want to change it, all you have to do is press select, and then that screen will pop up like you saw, and you can pick any of the categories that you want, from percussion instruments. You could pick steel guitar sounds, guitars, you can pick drum effects, you could put all sorts of different effects in there, and it does it seamlessly. So all you have to do is, when you're playing, is just reach up and hit one of the multi-pad. You can have them do all 4 at the same time. Sometimes you can push 2 on at the same time. They'll do different patterns. It just really depends on what you hear when you're playing, what you like, what you hear. So if I just pick a whole nother rhythm altogether, let's say I put on, I'll put on another Latin, Bossa Fast, no, Samba Rio. Oh, here we go, Samba Fast, okay? And let's just, let me play a little bit here. So this is Samba Fast, which is Latin page 2, okay? All right, let me do one touch setting, here we go. Here we go. There's actually a bossa nova percussion. Now listen, here's number 2. Here's number 3. I'll put them all on. Staying on that piano. Stop my multi-pad. Let me put number 2 on. You hear that little percussion come in. Number 3. Well, I was having fun. I hope you enjoyed that. I actually like that sustain button because I hate using the sustain pedal, having to constantly know when to lift off and take your foot off. But, so that was like a perfect sustain. Now let me just see what they did. That was at 116. That was a common setting. Okay, so I've got a bunch of other things that I won't get a chance to talk to. That was just a starting point. So I just want to recap. I did a recap on the recap. I did a recap on the playlist, the styles, a little bit about the one-touch setting. We talked a little about the sustain, the harmony arpeggio. I have to fool around with that a little more. I just started having some fun with that this morning. But that, obviously, you have a lot of great options on that. And then we have a little bit on the multi-pad. Now, some of these topics, either Mark or I might take a class and spend a little more time on one particular thing. And then something else that I won't do today, but I think we're going to touch on real soon. As I was playing earlier, the ease of individually controlling the volumes of everything. So if I have sounds on from my melody or the drummer or the accompaniment, I thought it was actually difficult at first until I discovered 2 functions, and we're going to get into that at some point, and showing you how you can, if you're playing and you think the drummer's too loud, how very easily you can turn that down. I'm not going to do that just yet, okay? What I'm going to do now is play a couple of short little songs for you, and I'm going to tell you what I did, so you can make note of it if you like the song, you like the setting, and you can use that. I'll actually... let's see, here's a song that how many of you are familiar with the movie that came out, I want to say it was about 5-6 years ago maybe. It was an animated movie called Coco. Anybody familiar? I think it's a Disney flick. And it's wrapped around the theme of, I'm not going to say this right, Dios de los Muertos. the holiday, the Day of the Dead, that they celebrate. And it's a cute movie, and they have a lot of great music in there. I love Disney movies simply for the fact that they have some great songs and music that they create. Well, this one of the songs, the theme of the movie, is this kid who wants to learn to play the guitar. He basically, what happens is he accidentally gets zapped into the afterlife. And there's a whole movie wrapped around him trying to find his father and the owner of the guitar and this or that. And what the way the movie is set up is that people have to remember them afterwards so that they remain alive after death in the afterlife. And so the song is called "Remember Me." It's a beautiful song. And the words are, "Remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me, don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me." So it's about remember me after I'm gone. "Have to travel far. Remember me each time you hear a sad guitar. Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be. Until you're in my arms again, remember me." It's a beautiful song. And the reason why I learned to play the song, my daughter used to love singing the song, and I dedicated this to her after she was gone. And it's a beautiful song. So I'm going to play that for you. If you like the song, go out and get the easy play. The style I'm going to use is in the Latin category. And let's see, not movies, Latin. Page 3, and I'm going to use pop Latin ballad. Okay? And what's that setting here? Turn off the sustain. It sets up this beautiful flamenco guitar, this classic nylon open sound. Absolutely gorgeous. All right, so here we go. I haven't played this in a while, so we'll see. Fingers crossed. Tuning up my guitar. Okay, here we go. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful song, and it's a beautiful style too, for you could play so many great Latin pieces with it. And you know, every now and then I get in the mood for country music. So if you go to your playlist here, if some of you like your country music, I'm just going to simply go to my playlist there. Go up, boom, and I think I'll go to country. And there's a, this actually you could play a couple Johnny Cash songs here. Oh, it says, do I want to save my presets? No, I don't need to. I'll just move on. Continue. Okay. I'm going to go to either Ring of Fire or Folsom Prison Blues. What is it? Let's see. There it is. You do that one. You can do a couple Johnny Cash tunes. Here we go. And I'm just using the setups here. Use Ring of Fire. Very similar beat, great for medleys. A lot of great song setups in there. Play one more for you and we'll call it a class. Well, I hope you're enjoying the class today. You learned at least one thing today or two. If you can walk out with one thing, then we've accomplished we did our job. Okay, let me go to, so this one here is, all right. I think it's under movie and shows. And I'm going to jump down. I'm going to hit that bottom arrow there, jump down to the bottom. Yeah, there's one. You're the one that I want. And I say that because, you know, ever since this got introduced, we have a lot of people that said, oh, you're the one that I want. I'll use some sheet music for this one here. All right. Oh, you know what? You could actually play some good old 50s rock and roll with this too, so I'll sneak that in there. get to, you just can't get that right. No, it doesn't happen to any of you, right? Well, I had fun teaching today, learned some new things along the way. I hope you did too, and I'll try to get this thing posted faster for you. So, by the way, the class, all the GENOS 2 materials on our YouTube channel. If you go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fletcher Music Centers, and you'll go to there's the like playlists, and then there's a separate playlist just for Yamaha GENOS, and that's where I've been putting everything. So if you click on that playlist, and then you'll see all the stuff we did, and I think there was a couple of the introductions that Marco and I did when we introduced the product. So inevitably that'll be in that playlist. Give me a couple days. I'll get it sooner than a week. All right? And if I don't, Steve will start hounding me. He'll start sending me emails, angry face emoji faces. No, just kidding. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the class today. Stay safe, everybody. Play music every day. And see you real soon.
Question.
Oh, let me do the kiss first. Mwah.
Question, Robert.
Yeah.